Okay, so let me just set some stuff up. And hey, everyone, good afternoon. How are you today? My name is Michael Manzano, and I'm with Career Connection at Bow Valley College. And this is Keeping Career Connections at Home Edition webinar series. It's great that you can join with us today on what is looking to be hopefully spring these days. So, you know, it's nice on my end of the city. I don't know what it's like on your side, but I hope that it is beautiful as well. So we are truly glad that you can all be here today. And we're doing this series throughout April just so that we can encourage you with advice and tips to help you grow in your job search. And also to provide a time for you to maybe have a little bit of normalcy during this challenging time. Since we can't meet in person, then virtually is almost as good. So here's some ground rules. Everyone respect each other. I'm turning everyone's mic off just so that we don't get that kind of odd feedback or some strange sounds. But also, I want you guys to join in. I want you guys to have some fun, okay? We're all in the same spot, right? We're all a community, and we just want to relax, have fun, and enjoy this time that we're all together, okay? So let me start off with this. So sometimes you hear the phrase life happens. So it just means that things come up and that maybe you didn't plan for it. But these days it's a crazy pandemic that's affecting all parts of the economy and of the world. And in your job search, it might be that extended time between jobs that you just don't expect. It might also look like a sickness that you have to stop working, or maybe you have to take care of a family member, or it might look like a company restructuring or even a layoff, or it might even be something else. So when you're having those problems getting back into the workforce, and it doesn't feel that good, and now you have that kind of gap in your resume. But what can you do when that time between jobs goes longer than you've expected? So, you know what? For myself, I've actually gone through that as well. But today, we have a guest who's going to help you understand those times a little more. So we've got Matthew Nelson here with us, and he's worked with a wide variety of industries. After graduating from Mount Royal University with a diploma in human resources, he began his career in recruitment working in the oil and gas construction, in recruitment and onboarding, and later fell into learning and development, where he found his passion. After just over 6 years and the downturn in 2015, he moved over to Shaw Communications. Good organization. I was there too for a bit, where he worked on learning and development, on the learning and development team for about 2 years. So in 2017, he joined the HR team at the Hyatt Regency Calgary for 2 years before leaving to do some HR consulting. But you know what? He missed the corporate world, and he recently joined Blackline Safety as a performance and learning specialist. So Matt, welcome to the webinar today. How you doing?
Thanks, Michael. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. How have you been staying safe these days?
Well, obviously the big one is stay inside. Our family, we kind of have one person going to the store. I've been working from home now since probably it was early March since I started working from home. So I've been home since early March is really the big key for me.
And are you keeping sane? I know you've got a couple kids at home.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. The days start to mold together.
Oh yeah.
But hey, thanks for the nice weather. I mean, yesterday got out quite a bit. We went for a nice long walk. We've got 2 little dogs, so we took them out. That was really nice. It was great to get some fresh air and be outside for once. So
that's awesome. So Matt, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you've got time between jobs. Why don't you school us? Tell us what you've got there. All right.
Sure. All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. How's everybody doing today? You can just throw a quick in the chat there how you're doing. Good. Awesome. Great. That's good to hear. Busy. Good. Yes. We could talk about that as well. Excellent. So we're going to have a little bit of fun today. As Michael said, interactive. Got a few fun things, and we're going to try something I've actually never done before. I looked this up last night. I'm going to give it a whirl, and I'm really crossing my fingers it's going to work. If it does, it could be a lot of fun. So obviously today I'm going to talk to you about time between jobs. So to get started, really just want to know from everybody else, what is the longest period of time you've been out of work? So about a year, okay? 12 months, yeah. D, 12 months plus, okay, lots of 12 months, 6, yeah. 6 months, okay. Quite a mixed bag here, and please keep throwing them in. I'm just going to keep going here. It's definitely not uncommon to see people say 12 months plus. I know it's varied for me. Most commonly for a lot of people, 6 months, 6 to 12 months is about, I would say, the average from people that I've spoken with, but also from personal experience. And right now, obviously, we're in really, really strange times. So it's kind of a tough thing to say. How long is this going to last? And so what's going to happen? So hopefully by the end of this, I'm really hoping I can maybe give you guys some tips and sort of help you sort of overcome that. I know it's not easy. So next question. This is kind of a fun little activity. You can follow the link there. There's also, if you go to menti.com, I will share a screen here or scan the QR code. I want to try to create an interactive word cloud here. If we can get this to work, this would be really cool. Just find out what is the reason you're unemployed. So for many of us, it can be anything from corporate restructurings. You could be laid off, downsizing, changes within the organization. I have spoken to some people recently where the company just plain old shut down. Or the one, we could say flat out, hey, some of us been fired. Been there. I'm not going to lie. So if that does not work, and I've got a thing up here, I'm just going to change the screen. Sorry, just a moment. And we're going to try this one. There we go. It's coming in awesome. So economy, restructuring, family. Absolutely. Those are all different things. Medical. Yes. Very good. Many of reasons. This is awesome. Thank you, people, for everyone for joining in on my my test here. Corporate restructuring, yeah, that's a big one. Not a fit. I really like that one. It's I don't know that we talk about that enough, and we are going to talk a little bit about that as well. Let's see what we got coming in here. Transitioning, yes. Awesome. Not a fit is pretty big one. A lot of people don't realize that when it comes to a job, it can sometimes really come down to you aligning with an organization, or even an organization aligning to you. I can personally say, I've taken jobs, bad decision, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story a bit later here. I'm just going to give people a couple more minutes here to join in the online participation. If you can't get into the link, feel free to throw in some more responses in the chat. I thought it'd be fun to throw a visual together. Oh, there we go. Moving. There's a good one. The job market, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now we've obviously seen a huge job market change. Many jobs, especially recently, have just been completely wiped out. And it's terrible. In fact, it was actually on our walk yesterday. It was kind of funny. We were walking past some people, and I overheard a conversation between two guys that knew each other and said, "Oh, unemployed bum." And I mean, it doesn't come down to, a lot of people will think, it's an age thing. It's a young thing. It's an old thing. I have heard and seen people of all ages from all over the board who are currently unemployed, or who have gone through unemployment recently. It is not specific. Exhaustion. Excellent. Really like that one. I will, I'll touch on that as well. So, let go. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to keep going here, and thank you everybody for your participation on that. Just going to switch back to my other screen here, and I will do a quick screen grab on this one. There we go. So many of the different reasons, obviously, that we're unemployed, it can sort of vary. So the next question I have for everybody is, this is an interesting one. How many times, and I apologize, the screen got cut off there. How many times have you been employed? Is it your first time, more than once? Let's see what you have to say. So first time, okay, yeah. Second time, and just so everybody knows, you're not alone. If it's been once, twice, 3 times more, Michael's 3. Awesome. Thanks, Michael. 2. Okay. And obviously there's various reasons why this happened. For me, it's been 4. My first job, a lot of it was my first job, entered the job market, definitely found myself, I didn't fit in. We talked about that, that fit. My second job was really the downturn. The position was eliminated. And then the next one was an organizational change for me. And then my most recent situation was actually not long ago, where I took a job with a consulting firm. And again, it was not a right fit. It was a very short thing. And frankly, I was fired. I was not in a good place in my personal life. And it obviously plays into an organization. And unfortunately, too often I find organizations don't take these things into account, that we're not just people coming into the office, that there's more to us outside of work. So with that in mind, I want to go to the next one. What do you think of when you see this photo, when you see this guy? First thing that comes to mind, just throw it out in the chat there. Just wait for some of those responses to come in. Depressed, okay, yeah. What else? You see a guy, he's kind of sitting on a sofa, hanging out, young, broke, yeah. Maybe homeless, disgruntled, yeah. Chill. I like that. Good one. Frustrated, yeah. When I was looking, I went looking for a picture here, and when I was, hopeless, tired, absolutely lost, I was really looking for a photo to try to represent, all these things, but, thinking homeless. When we look at this photo, we think homeless, but do we really know what this guy's situation is? Maybe, this is his look. Maybe he's, he goes around playing music for all we know. We don't know he has a guitar. He could be one of the happiest guys you've ever met. He just happens to be captured in the moment. And the reason I picked this photo is often there's a misconception with individuals who are unemployed. And a lot of it can be sort of around what you've said. So disgruntled, frustrated, aimless, upset. All these different things can be misconceptions that organizations will have of you. So when you go in to apply for that job, well, why are you unemployed? There are misconceptions that are made about you, and it's a matter of how we overcome that. So what do we do? Another one I want to mention is being not capable of being able to do your job. Sorry. So it's having that mismatch. Maybe you're not aligned with the organization. So how do we overcome that? Well, I have some bad news, and I'm going to start with that. There really is no silver bullet. At the end of the day, we are all people, and it's just a matter of figuring out, okay, so how do we overcome that? How do we make that leap into the future and get out of this, if you will? It is a bit of a rut, is really the best way to put it. Now, the good news is there's always opportunity. So no matter what, there is an opportunity out there. It's just a matter of you finding that right opportunity and that right organization for you to align with. So first, I like to call out the elephant in the room. Obviously, being out of work is never a good thing for anyone, but it is a fine line that we need to walk at times, and very much becomes a balancing act. And how do you overcome that? Well, it's not easy, of course. A lot of you kind of brought up some of those ideas. It's tiring, it's frustrating, I'm sure, especially if it's been over a year. Financially, that's extremely concerning, of course, nonetheless. But it's a matter of how you show up. Like, what are you going to do to showcase to your future employer that there's value in hiring you and taking you, and that there are opportunities out there for you? So really, it comes down to perspective. And I like to use the analogy of the rose-colored glasses. And it's because it's really about getting a future employer to align with you and getting them to sort of say, hey, you know what? I really see opportunity in this person. This person's really going to work out well for me. And you finding the right opportunity for yourself as well. So it's really about shifting that perspective, looking at things through a different lens and saying, how can we change things? I can say personally from personal experience, sorry, one of the biggest keys that I've learned is every time that I've been out of work, I always look back in terms of what I've done and what I can do differently. And I've made changes in that experience to say, hey, how do we make this better going forward? How can I show up better in the future? And everyone will have a different lesson learned. I know personally, I'll share that I tend to get very passionate about things, and I've been caught up being guilty, sort of being like, okay, trying to do everything and be like, why aren't people seeing things from my perspective? But I have observed with a lot of organizations, they tend to feel that, you know, very often you're there to be in line, you're there to do your job and sort of go home at the end of the day. And that's not always the truth, but in a lot of situations, that's sort of what I found. They want your expertise where they need it, and that's sort of where that line ends. That's one of the biggest things that I've personally found. So, what are some strategies for you to sort of overcome this, help you get better? I'm just going to share a few. First thing you need to do is when you go apply for a job, the minute you go and you submit your application, you got to make sure that you're prepping for that. So I'm sure you've heard it before, customizing your resume. But what I like to say is look at what you're strongest at. Where's your strengths? Michael started off with, I thought that was a fantastic topic. A new thing, there's painting, there's gardening, backcountry skiing, making wine. And, maybe you have a current hobby. Maybe you're things that that you can already do. So it's really saying, hey, what am I good at in life, and how do I apply this to my job? And for me, one of the things, it's funny, I love learning, and I think that's part of the reason I got into learning and development. Is part of my role is learning a lot, and all the time I'm always learning something new, and I'm having to learn something to reteach it. And one of my passions outside of work actually is I got into artisan bread making years ago. And I find myself just constantly wanting to find better ways of doing it and trying new recipes and saying, once I've got a technique down, how do I learn a better technique, and so on. So really looking at yourself and saying, where are my strengths? The next question I like to ask is, what did you like and what did you dislike most about your previous role? So things you need to consider as, what did I love? And there's an author called Marcus Buckingham. He says, what you love and loathe. And at the end of the day, your loves should outdo your loathes. Now, if you have more loathes than loves, or dislikes than likes, then you're probably not in the right role. And maybe it's the industry, maybe it's the organization. It could be any number of factors, but I think it's very important for you to look at that and sort of figure out what it is that has driven you, what has sort of put you where you are today, and what are you looking for in the future, and how are you going to be successful in the future based on that. Maybe what would make you successful? I know for me, focus can be very challenging for me. I'm a very sociable person. I struggle in certain environments where I'm sort of isolated. I've been in environments, surprisingly. I've had my own office multiple times, and I actually don't really like having my own office. As much as it does help with focus, I find it sort of isolates me from the rest of the people, and I get an energy being in an open office environment. And where I currently work, when I am in the office, it's an extreme open office. In fact, a lot of us, they have a policy for helping us get noise canceling headphones because it is so loud, and we're just surrounded by other people. But I love it because I feel this energy of people working, and it encourages me to work. So maybe there's some things for some of you that you find that are like, hey, you know what? I need a closed office, or I need a small team. I'm an introvert. I really don't want a team. I want to work by myself. Depends kind of who you are, but you have to think about these factors. What's going to make you successful? Another one of my favorite ones here is, what are deal breakers? And you may be thinking, like, what do you mean by deal breakers, Matt? Well, what do I mean by deal breakers is things for me, for example, are I have a young family. I have two small children. I have a daughter who is 6 and a son who's about to turn 4. And they're young and I want to be able to spend time with them. Family is extremely important to me, which is I can see is for other people as well. So I need an employer that understands that my family comes first, and that's a number one priority for me. Also is flexibility of work. So during the normal days, I like to have the ability to work from home when I need to. The odd project will require me to actually sort of sit down and focus, and that's where the open office environment doesn't work for me. And offices can be very expensive for employers, so I like being able to say, hey, I want to go home today and I want to just stay at home so I can start my day at 7 and I can finish at 5 and I can hammer through that project and get it done. For other people, it could be something as simple as, maybe you want to go to the gym in the afternoon and having that flexibility in your schedule. Maybe it's vacation. Maybe you want more than 3 weeks of vacation. And what does that look like? So you have to figure out what are your specific deal breakers. I would say don't go too crazy because obviously we have to look out for our employers just as we want to look out for them. But really think about maybe 2-3 key things that you're like, I absolutely need this in my job. And that was one mistake I made in my last role is I didn't go in with my deal breakers. I was actually in the hospitality industry I worked there previous to my consulting position, and it was very high stress, 24-hour business. And I got a job offer and I took it with a company that didn't align with my deal breakers, such as the flexible work, the work from home. They even required us to have a mandatory Friday sort of team, like wind down Friday sort of thing every day at 4:30. So I wasn't really able to go home to be with my family. So I was a bit disappointed in that, and it didn't work out for me. And frankly, I'm okay with that. It was hard at first, but I came to terms with the fact that, it was just as much my fault as it was theirs. And then took responsibility for the fact that knowing I didn't live up to myself. So that's what ended up not working out for me. Sorry. And then of course, each and every one of us has something that's incredible about us. So you got to figure out what are your top 3, maybe it's 5. There is something amazing about each and every one of you. And I will say I recently had gone through a career transition program, and a couple things that blew me away was, one, the like-minded people that I was with. It was absolutely amazing. I felt for the first time ever, I could really be myself versus trying to be what a company wanted me to be. And I really learned that everybody has something unique about them. No matter what you think, there is something amazing about you. And it could be, maybe you're really good at talking to people. It could be a skill. Like, for example, if you're a rock climber, maybe you're really good at being analytical and figuring out the best route. Or if you want to get into gardening, it could be something as simple as you're really good at planning out a garden or knowing how specific plants grow. You would be surprised as to how often skills can transfer. But not only that, if you really look at what are those 3 amazing things about you and you go into an interview from there and you say, hey, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table. It is an absolute game changer. When I went into my interview at Blackline, that's actually basically what I did. Is I went in there and I went in with an OBS. I said, hey, look, my deal breakers are this. I've got a family at home and I want to be with my family. And this is important to me. So I want remote work. And I kind of laid out a few of the things that I wanted. There's some things I'm willing to budge on a little bit. But I just told them, and top 3 things you're amazing at. I gave examples of, hey, you know what? I'm really good at this. And here's specifically what I had done. Specific programs that I had built or interactions that I'd have. So there's some examples. And then, of course, the next one is you got to figure out where you want to go from here. And I'm sure some of you, being a year plus, and this is frankly something that's gone through my mind, a number of times, is where do I want to go from here? And this comes into my mind almost every day is, what does my future look like? And it was mentioned, I just got to go back in the comments here. I really liked one of these comments about life's plan. Sorry, just a minute here. Trying to find it. I like this one from Ed. You said, life is what happens while you are planning something else. There's so much truth to that. And that's where I say, where do you want to go from here is a matter of Maybe it's a career shift. I actually met a gentleman recently. He was a geophysicist for years. Did an expat assignment in Australia, came back, and he worked for a big oil and gas company, by the way. Came back to a, hey, thanks for your service, but we no longer need you. Smart guy, and he realized that obviously, geophysicists are no longer really in need, but he has a passion for finance, so he made a complete pivot into the finance industry. Um, I've seen like some crazy pivots. Another guy I met recently, he's an engineer, originally from Africa, and with his own money, he was sending kids to school in Africa. And he reached out to me recently and said, hey, I could use some help. Do you know anybody who could help me raise some money? I've decided to go full time with my charity and actually send kids to school in Africa. That's what he's decided his job is going to be. So really, at the end of the day, the sky is the limit. You can essentially do whatever you want to do. And if it's not something that you haven't thought of yet, I would highly recommend sort of just taking a look back. What are you really good at? Take a look at this list here and say, I may have done this for 20, 30 years, but where do I go from here? It's tough. I mean, there's never a clear path in life. And when a graphic I should have thrown in here, I've seen frequently on LinkedIn, is we think life is a nice clear climb, but usually it's more of an obstacle course than it is really a clear up. And it's a matter of how we handle those obstacles and what we decide to do from there. Because at the end of the day, it really is never too late, no matter who you are, where you are, or anything. It's a matter of where do you want to go from here. So with that all in mind, you have a choice. When you come to an interview, it's kind of that whole blue pill, red pill. It's about which direction do you want to go. Do you want to go find a job because you need one? And trust me, I've been there. When I was recently unemployed, it was about just over 6 months, or close to 6 months. I ran into EI issues, so I went about 3 to 4 months without any EI payments. We have mortgage payments. I've got the kids in school, daycare, activities, all that. So, bills were piling up. It was very, very difficult, and I was trying to find so many different solutions. In fact, I had actually incorporated a business during the whole process and actually had the idea to start up a business. But things got so tight that I couldn't stop looking for jobs, because I realized that at the end of the day, as much as I'd love to run a business, for me, I really need to be able to have an income. And I do enjoy the corporate environment as well. So I had a decision to make. And I could have taken a job, and I had every intention to look for something, even serving coffee at Starbucks, which is something I had done over 10 years ago. Just anything. And that is, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. You 100% can do it. And there's nothing wrong with taking a job to support yourself. But really, at the end of the day, you want to find that career you're passionate about. To me, a career is something that, you're proud of what you do, and you do for however long you want to do it. I mean, I enjoy working personally. I enjoy interacting with people. And sort of as Michael sort of mentioned, for me, it's that impact piece. And that is why I do what I do. And you have to ask yourself, what does that look like for you? So which pill do you want to take, the blue or the red? And that's really going to be the big differentiator when you show up to an interview, and will help you in the long term. You'll definitely feel better. Sorry, I'm just waiting for my slides. A little slow there. So the next step is you really have to come up with a plan. Now I know, obviously health, exhaustion, family, the economy, all these things we cannot, some of it we cannot plan for. But what we can do is we can decide what's our path forward? What is it we want to do? Where is it we want to go? Being let go from a job, fired, whatever it may be, when we position it in an interview, we have to find that right way. And the only way we can do that is by creating a plan. So first things first, you need to know what it is you want to do and where it is you want to go in the future. And then you have to figure out how you're going to position that. So when you go in for that interview, you have to decide what you're comfortable with and how you want to position it to the employer. So that can be any number of reasons. And just let me go to my next slide here. But it comes down to really telling a story. So one thing that I have found that comes in very helpful is obviously always stay positive. Suggested answers can be stuff such as, hey, the organization went through some restructuring and my position was eliminated. It could be personal reasons. I know a few of you have mentioned, I saw medical come up, and family obligations. Those are two key things that I can tell you are they are protected under both employment standards and Alberta human rights. So if you are ever out, you should never be asked details on that in an interview. You can typically just say there were some personal reasons, and those can stay with you. You don't have to be public about that. I know personally, I've had to kind of readjust my job history, and I've talked to a number of people. If you've been in a role for less than 3 or 4 months, sometimes it's best to just leave it off and just say you did some freelancing and just say, you know what, I just did some freelancing for myself. And you can kind of leave it at that and just try to glaze over it, but don't make it a big deal that, oh, I did this and this and this and this, unless you can back up that story and fully sort of explain your story. Typically not a good idea. But as I mentioned, when it comes to anything like personal or medical related, I would probably just leave that off and just sort of say personal reasons and just keep it at that. Most organizations that I've worked with are very understanding of that. And recruiting it's interesting. It is very much a personality test as much sometimes it is a knowledge test. And it really can come down to how well you connect with both the interviewer, the hiring manager, and the recruiter, because every recruiter is going to be different. There is really no perfect science I found to it. A lot of times it's gut feeling. But I should also mention is it does come down to the needs of the organization. And just because it's a no, don't feel bad. I just want to mention that I have been in positions, very, very difficult hiring positions, where it's been down to 2 candidates and decisions I've been asked for my opinion on. And they're like, so what do you think, Matt? Which one should we go through, candidate A or candidate B? And sometimes it's even been people I've worked with in the past where I'm like, man, I really want to give this guy a job and I want to give him a chance. But it can be something as simple as that other person may have just a certain skill set that you may not have for that role that organization needs at that time. And even in those conversations, we've said, you know what? We really like that other person, like person B. We can say I don't know, Stacy, for example. I'll throw out a name. But instead we're going to hire John in this case because, Stacy's skills are awesome. We really like her personality, but hey, John has that, I don't know, that specific program that we need, the graphics design skills or whatever it may be, or vice versa. It could be the other way around where this person is way too overskilled, or there's so many different factors that go into the hiring decision. I don't want anybody to feel discouraged, as hard as it can be. I'll tell you this much. I'm going to kind of finish on a thought, and then I'm happy to answer some questions for you. I actually have this quote was given to me many years ago on a coaster. And the weirdest thing is I've had it for years and years and years. Albert Einstein once said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. And if this was ever applicable, this past, since basically last August for me till now, this quote has never been so applicable to me ever. And what I've realized is there's also the saying many people may have heard is when one door opens, or when a door opens, when 2 windows open. I very much believe that. I have seen in my personal life, I've been out of work anywhere from a few weeks to a few months to almost an entire year. And by staying patient and calm, and just keep plugging forward. And there are going to be bad days, don't get me wrong. But just pick yourself up, just know that there's value in each and every one of you. And if you create that list of top 3 things, those 3 things should be your grounding light and your North Star to guide you to say, hey, you know what? I am good at what I do. I have opportunity, and I know I can go forward. So I'm going to leave you with that. If you have any questions, here's some of my contact information. I will point out the whole upward momentum thing and the logo and stuff you've seen. That's actually my podcast. This is something that helped me continue going actually during my unemployment journey. I started a podcast back in about January. Unfortunately, I've only hit 2 episodes right now. I am working on my 3rd very shortly here. And right now it is focused on unemployment. And my goal is really, I'm trying to disrupt the business world, because I feel like we have done things so traditionally for so long. It does not work for people. So my podcast is actually meant to interview individuals who are willing to share their story and show, ideally show organizations that there's a person behind that number, and that we're not just numbers, we're actual people. We have families, we have kids, you name it. And at the end of the day, we are all great people. It's just a matter of finding those strengths. So thank you everybody for your participation. And yeah, feel free to shoot out some questions.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. That was amazing. There were lots of things that we could quote you on there. That's great. But if anyone does have any questions, then feel free to use the chat box.
Oh,
there.
sorry, Michael, you're cutting out there.
Hello? How's that? Is that okay? Okay. How's that? Maybe it's my connection.
There you go. You're better now.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate you coming out here. But you had lots of great things to say, and I really like what you're saying about talking about what are you good at in life and how do you develop that. So it really gets us to think about what we're good at, but not just good at it. You also said not just what you're good at, but what you're incredible or amazing at. And that's what I really love, because people can do lots of good things, but you know, everyone can do something amazing. And it's really just finding what that amazing thing is. Now I got a question for you, Matt. Like, let's say, I mean, you're probably amazing at making artisan bread.
Okay, yeah.
So let's say that's one of your amazing things. How do you bring that up into an employer? How would you use something like that?
Yeah, so the way that I've personally positioned it is, I look at it this way is, you know, for me, it's about, I've always liked tinkering with things. And when I initially started my career, actually, I had planned to go into computer science. So here's the weirdest thing. So computer science is my original path. And I realized I did not relate to computer code the way I relate to people. So I sort of took this as, I need to do something else. So I went and started taking some business courses. Thankfully, I met an instructor who is her first year teaching HR courses. And I'm like, this is it. This is where I need to be. This was like my perfect blend. So when I got into HR and the whole bread making thing, to me, when I build learning programs, it's like building a loaf of bread. You're developing something. You're building something into something amazing. And you know, for a loaf of bread for me is literally 3 ingredients: is flour, water, salt. That is literally it, because I use a natural yeast starter, which is flour and water. And it takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and just practice. So the way I look at it is, when I go to do my daily work, when I'm building a training course, for example, it's very similar, because it's a matter of, first of all, I have to practice my skills to get there. And one of my biggest challenges lately is I ended up working in an HR role for quite a while. I sort of lost touch with my L&D side a little bit. So I had to go flex that muscle again. And the same goes for when I make a loaf of bread. Excuse me, if I don't make bread, say once or twice a week, once a week to every, well, actually, let me go once every 2 weeks right now. Sometimes it was 4 days, like a few days ago, it was 4 days in a row, and I was giving it away to neighbors, just to keep me sane. But you know, you got to keep practicing those skills and sort of keep it going. And that's the way I look at it, is whether I'm in the kitchen or building something, I know that at the end of the day, when somebody eats my bread, I get satisfied knowing they're like, wow, that's really good. Or when they go through a training program, they're like, that was amazing. I really took something away from that. So the two kind of align.
Oh, that's great. And so if you are Matt's neighbor, he might give you some bread.
There you go.
So we got a question from Ed here. How do you think that the current COVID situation will affect the world of work in a
Mm,
permanent way? Good
that's a
question, Ed.
really good question, Ed. And I don't know that there's one specific answer, but what I can definitely say is, and it's funny, I've been talking to a friend of mine about this who is also out of work right now. He's brought up an interesting perspective, which I will share is we're seeing it's very interesting. We're seeing almost more socialism than anything. Like he's saying that and I could sort of see that perspective. I think, but if we go to the world of work, I think we're going to I mean, we've needed, I'll speak to Alberta specifically. We've needed to get away from oil and gas, I think, for some time. We just, as a society, as a government, whatever you want to call it, we kind of failed to do that. It was sort of a long time coming. It was eventually going to happen. And I think this is kind of going to be the big push for that. Jobs that we've seen go away, I would say, are not going to come back. Now, that's not to say there won't be jobs. They're just going to change. One interesting thing I've learned through Blackline is I actually, believe it or not, back at the beginning of March, I actually went down to the US. I traveled through California learning about or doing some training with some of our distributors. And one key industry that I heard a lot of is, believe it or not, solar energy. Very similar to oil and gas construction was the funny thing, just talking to the people. It was like the product that we sell, if anybody's not familiar, is it's a personal safety device. And I unfortunately don't have it with me right now. I have one, but it's just not here. And basically what it does is it's designed to watch people for safety. So if you have a fall, if you don't move, it also does gas detection. So if you're around like hazardous gases, we're heavily used in the oil and gas industry. But we've also found that there's a multitude of various industries that do use our products as well. So with that in mind, um, I think we're going to see a shift in terms of the way we work as well. You'll probably see a lot more remote work. I think more and more companies are going to start to say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we can let our people work from home because, well, hey, hold on a minute. Data is actually showing Canadians are more productive now. Um, I'll speak for myself, having my wife and two kids at home. I can't wait to go back into the office. I love my family, but it's been a struggle. We've got basically, I'm in our home office in our basement right now, which is the best place to be. But we've had to set up our dining room as a temporary office right now, and trying to parent and work at the same time is very difficult. So that's one thing I would say, though. You're going to see that shift as well. I think we're going to start to see just different skill set. Even in myself, I've seen now learning to deal with multiple distractions. It's just fascinating how even myself is going to change. So I hope that answers your question. If it didn't, please ask again or reword. But the best way to say is that we're going to see different jobs. We're seeing an emergence already. A couple industries that I've heard of, I said, like renewable energy, blockchain is another one I started to hear a lot more of. I haven't really researched much on it. I've started to dabble in it just to understand it. But the way we work and the types of industries are definitely going to change. And I think Alberta especially. So.
How about like let's say your industry, your company can
Hmm.
actually be considered a tech industry or tech company.
Yeah.
So how about like a little before this whole COVID situation, and how about now? Could you give us a quick summary of what's been happening with you guys?
Yeah. So from what I understand, so the company started, wow, this is really testing my knowledge. I believe it was 2007, if I remember correctly. Lots happened in the past week. So we started back in about 2007, and we're actually one of, I think it's Canada's largest growing tech companies. I mean, they're publicly traded, so you can look them up on the venture exchange. Their stocks are down right now, obviously, as most companies are, but the growth has been exponential. I mean, the sales were massive over the past few years. The company, we literally ran out of space in our office for people. We were on top of each other, quite literally, not stacked, but we were so close together that it was just insane. But with that said, I mean, we've seen a lot of growth and transformation, and one thing that's really interesting is we are just in the process of actually. I got an assignment about a week ago saying, hey, with this COVID-19 thing, our devices are monitoring devices. They use GPS. We can use that to measure close contact. So now we've been able to shift very quickly. So I think we'll definitely see some growth. We're in a hiring freeze right now, unfortunately, but it's going to grow, and I think tech industry for sure. And there's an example of one of them. Where we go from here will be interesting though, because we do rely heavily on the oil and gas industry, so it'll sort of say where things go around the world because we are a global company. That's going to be interesting if that helps, Michael. I don't know if that answers it, but
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean,
okay.
you guys are one of those companies that did have that exponential growth as you were talking about, and
Mhm.
probably one of those tech darlings that coming
Yeah,
out of Calgary. So it's great to see that you guys were doing so well. And I mean, it's too bad that this is all happening, but I
yeah,
mean, it's good that you guys are still out there and you're still doing things, right? So it's great. But then we've got one more question as well.
yeah.
What do the fundamental skill sets for the future look
Mm.
like? So maybe what could people be focusing on right now?
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. I think, tech skills are a big one, and it's funny. My wife and I have talked about this and said that maybe people who are not good with tech are now all of a sudden becoming really tech savvy because you essentially have to adapt. So I would say tech skills for sure. Being able, your basic applications are going to be big. One key thing I see even from like my kids' generation is I look at stuff like even programming. I think to myself, I took some programming courses in high school, and that's where I originally wanted to go. Um, I am way behind on all of that. It is something I would say maybe not for the current generation, but I would say up and coming 100%. If you want to send that on, um, programming language, who knows? It's changing all the time. There's a bajillion of them out there, but understanding the fundamentals, I'd say, is good no matter what you can do, because even Excel now is starting to use that kind of stuff. Data analytics is another one. I actually just took a data analytics course myself recently, and it was hugely eye-opening to see how easy it is to create these data models. Believe it or not, Excel can actually do a forecast. As long as you have about 5 years of data, you can actually forecast the next 5 years of sales and all kinds of other stuff. It's absolutely amazing. And it just requires simple understanding if and then statements. Um, the other one I started to notice a lot of in trends is leadership. And when I say leadership is we've gone away from the days of I'm a manager, and now everybody's a leader, and everybody has to have leadership skills. And it's a matter of being a leadership in what you do and being able to stand up and say, you know what, I can do that. And I'm going to show people that there is a better way to do things. And along with that goes a concept known as emotional intelligence, or you can look it up as EQI. Another two, I would say, big emerging trends. One person I really like to follow is Simon Sinek. He's got a lot on this whole you don't have to be a manager to be a leader kind of thing, and I'm very much a believer in that. What other fundamental skills? I'm trying to think of things. So I said tech. I think those are probably the biggest keys right now. Uh, yeah, that's probably about it. Unless Michael, you can think of some. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, actually, kind of just to add on to that,
Yeah.
I mean, those are great soft skills. You're also looking at things like creativity. We've got a great
Yes.
webinar that we
Absolutely.
did with Caroline Brookfield, and she was talking about everyday creativity. You can check that out on our website, the recording. And then also, if you want to go with hard skills, specifically in the tech industry, you're looking at things like AI. You mentioned blockchain, and then things like
Mhm.
clouds. So even just looking into those kinds of things. Analytics are going to be big. So if you're a numbers person, that might be a place where you would shine really well. So I mean, looking at all these things, yeah, I mean, there's lots and lots of opportunity out there. So working on those, I mean, right now would be a great time even to just do research and see what you enjoy, and even maybe dabble in different things and try different things out. Not just bread making, but also, I don't know, maybe some math, checking out Excel again, and trying all those different kinds of formulas.
Mhm.
But I mean, hey, Matt, thank you so much for
No
joining us
worries.
today. That was amazing. So last question. I mean, you've got some stuff here. Questions. Can people maybe reach out to you if they have any other questions?
Absolutely. I'm more than happy to connect on LinkedIn if you want. I'm not a big Twitter person lately. I try to get on there, but not as much, but I figure I'd throw it up because I do share some stuff. Emails there. And with the podcast, I'll also mention it is available on Apple, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. So you can just look up Upward Momentum on any of those platforms and you'll find it. And the logo is just in the bottom corner there. So you just look for that picture and you've got her. So
Yeah.
definitely feel free to check out the podcast. If you're interested in being on the podcast, I'm always happy to interview people. If you have a story to tell, I would love to hear it. And yeah, by all means, I'm happy to connect with anybody. So I may be slow, but I'm happy to connect.
Yeah, definitely check out the podcast. Look it up. You could probably just Google it and it'll be up on there. It's great. It's great. I heard the first one, and Matt does a really good job there with interviewing people. And hey, we'll also have those links on our website so you can check them out. So you don't have to do a quick screenshot, but you can if you like. So thank you so much, Matt. So let me just quickly tell you, I
want to thank everybody as well for your participation. That was a lot of fun, and appreciate the word cloud.
Yeah, that worked out well, actually, huh? Cool. So, hello?
Hello.
Okay.
You're good now. You're choppy again.
One of the joys of working from home. I mean, you talked about how you had to kind of find your own little space in your house, and you're working different areas, your dining room. I get the laundry room. I mean, if people have been in the other webinars we've done, I'm here in my laundry room. I've got my laundry stuff here, but this is the best place for me. So here's what I want to do. I just want to say, I mean, job searching can be difficult.
Oh, you're choppy again.
Choppy.
Yeah.
You know what? Okay. How's that? Is that better? No? Well, you know what? How about we do this? You can check out the website. We've got these throughout the entire month of April. So look on our website, mycareerconnection.ca/events for what's coming up next. Tomorrow we've got a webinar on resilience. So come check that out. But Matt, thanks again. My name's Michael Manzano with Career Connection at Bow Valley College. I just wanted to tell you all, you know what? Stay safe, stay sane, because we'll get through this all together. All right. Thanks for being here, everyone. You take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.